Hey folks, Phil Gallagher here with more daily D&T. Again, we are playing with a relatively stock main deck. It just has a spicy one of Brightling and a spicy one of Elspeth in the sideboard. See the deck tech from Monday for more info. We'll be keeping our hand. It's fine. The vial is good, obviously, but we only have one creature to back it up. If Mana Denial is good against our opponent, and we get to actually port them Wasteland, and it is very effective, then this hand is great. Otherwise, things are a little sketchy. So if this vial hits Spell Pierce here, it's a little rough. So since my opponent started with a basic land, we're unlikely to be able to just Mom and Wasteland next turn. If there's something like a Delver strategy, and we get to just Swords to Plowshares a threat they play out, that'd be cool. Our hand, now that the vial has been countered, does not have access to the second white we would need for Palace Jailer. And we're not also particularly aggressive here. Someday I'll shake this cough. The day is not today. Do, 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 do. I don't know how much that guy can hum without the copyright police coming for me, but I assume that much is fine. So this land should be telling. Not as telling as I wanted. This is still relatively ambiguous. Unless my draw step changes something, current plan is to play Mom and a port. I still don't have a good enough read on what archetype my opponent is. Spell Pierce could be indicative of something like Delver, like a blue-red Delver deck. But it equally could just be indicative of a control deck that's adapting to the presence of Breach in the format. Or could be something like a combo deck even, that is using Spell Pierce to back itself up. This avatar is kind of cool, though. I respect the Nicol Bolas. Although I'm pretty sure I've had this avatar for over a year at this point, so it might be time to consider swapping it out. Okay, so we are playing against a Delver deck. We can hopefully Swords to Plowshares this, and then maybe resolve a Jitte or something. We'll start with this and hope they don't have a force. Now I'll redeploy the Mom. I couldn't fully answer them on the first time around. Opponent's probably on a bit of a non-traditional blue-red Delver deck. There's a few different blue-red Delver deck variants floating around right now. And I'm not really seeing Vapor Snag in the main deck of most of them. And a lot of them are also light on Spell Pierce. So in addition to just like the normal one with like Arcanists and Young Pyromancers, like maybe a True Name, a Brazen Borrower, or probably even two of them, there's another variant running around that's prowess-based, and instead plays some things like Storm Chaser Mage, Scour, Soul Scour Mage, there it is, Soul Scour Mage, and Swift Spear. So do I want to play Jailer into Daze? Not particularly. I think I instead would like to just try to resolve the Jitte and port my opponent. And then play Jailer around Daze next turn, maybe taking out a better card in process than just an elemental token. So my opponent there was just making it so I can't port them. That may be indicative of the fact that they have something like a True Name Nemesis that costs 3 mana. Or a Brazen Borrower, or Vendilion Click, that sort of thing. This Palace Jailer is awkward and is the sort of thing that I'm going to be boarding out in this matchup. Probably for exactly the reason we're about to see. Yep. So as it's my only body, I'm really obligated to play this card. It just does not feel good. Like, if I had any other creature that I could play, I would play it instead of Palace Jailer. But in the face of True Name Nemesis representing a real clock, I just cannot afford... that's amazing. Like, actually amazing. I just cannot afford to not play anything that turn. So why is my opponent fetching? I have not cantripped recently. They're not playing anything in their pre-combat main phase. Okay. So this kind of sucks because my opponent gets a draw 3 that also allows them to potentially find more answers to this prelate that I'm about to throw down. My ideal draw would probably be Swords to Plowshares. To Swords to Plowshares, the Bedlam Reveler. equip Palace Jailer, attack in, kill the Delver, Sanctum Prelate on 1. Well, that's not where we're at. Wow. Okay. So we're going to keep trying here. What does my opponent have in hand? It's not Force of Will. It's probably not Lightning Bolt. Daze is a possibility. Spell Pierce is a possibility. So let's go to the end step, see what this card I'm going to draw is. Oh, that's good. That's real good. I think I do need to kill the Delver. Doing it here gives my opponent a scry with the Delver. But if my opponent has... No, I guess that was just bad. I should have done it on my end step. I was thinking about Stifle, but I have the Prelate on 1. So since they didn't fetch, nothing is really lost. So now I'm hoping that my Sanctum Prelate is really decreasing the quality of their draws significantly. So I have 1, 2, 3 sword, 1, 2 equip, plus have 2 extra mana. 1, 2, 3 sword, 1, 2 equip, plus 2 extra mana. I think I want to... No, keeping my opponent off hardcast Force of Will doesn't matter because they probably have a bunch of things that are stranded in their hand. And they have plenty of pitch targets anyway. I guess I should play one more land first. Oh, wow. Alright, opponent has conceded there. I feel like we're a little lucky to steal that one in the face of the true name Nemesis. Thank you, equipment. Alright, so what do we have for Delver? Path's good, Ballista's good against Young Pyromancer, Council's Judgment is fine as removal. If I had Rest in Peace, I would probably board it in here since my opponent's a Bedlam Reveler build, and potentially also Arcanist. I don't know exactly if that's an either or, both and sort of situation. And I might end up playing this too. Let's figure out what I don't want. Revokers are unplayable, and Marin Crusader's pretty bad. The Brightling's good, and the Palace Jailer is going to get boarded out. Buddy, I know you got me out of that game, but generally speaking, I don't think you're going to be amazing. This Horizon Canopy is also not the greatest, but I think it's better than most of the other stuff that's here. That Sword of Fire and Ice was very, very fortuitous for us. As always, I always have mixed feelings about Sanctum Prelate versus Delver, especially when you're on the draw, because these are often your best top decks. But shutting down your opponent's top decked cards, especially when they have Bedlam Reveler, is pretty good. One thing we've done with this build that we often don't do with Delver is we still have the Recruiters in our deck, so we have a decently strong endgame versus this deck, but maybe not quite as much early interaction as we might like. I have a medium quality hand that I don't love. It is not bad enough to mulligan, but being able to be wastelanded off of our primary white mana source is pretty bad. I'm not going to show fear here by just like playing the port. A lot of times playing the port out is just a sign to your opponent that like I don't have a plains in hand and wastelanding me is good. So I don't want to show that to my opponent. Whatever creature they play here, I will attempt to Swords to Plowshares it and follow it up with Thalia and potentially Wasteland, depending on what my opponent fetches. So, like, for example, if this gets dazed, then my Thalia doesn't get dazed. The Thalia makes the Pyromancer worse. So even if my opponent has a counterspell, they may or may not actually use it here. That's a good draw if we get another white source. So now since our opponent forced instead of daze, my opponent has potentially some better lines available to them this turn. So for example, they could bolt the Thalia, then follow it up with a cantrip, and have created a pretty wide board. Probably basic plains is the draw that I would most like to get. Just getting this down would greatly weaken the young Pyromancer that's in play. And my opponent has some tricky decision. I see. So they can choose to play like a spell and wasteland me. Like if they have a bolt and a wasteland, that seems easy. Just like unquestionably the play. Yeah. Well, what was the question here with this play? That's a great play. Alright, things are awful, and I am going to die. I have multiple problems with my current hand. So we ported this so that opponent could not ponder, and we shut off like ponders and or preordains during their main phase. We made their brainstorm slightly less optimal. But I do not get very many draws to hit my planes. And I really do need my next two draws to be planes and planes. Because as things stand right now, assuming no other spells, I take 4 this turn going to 12, and then I take 5, then 5. But realistically, like my opponent will just cast something else, and then I'll be dead in 2 turns. So this does something. But if opponent has a bolt as either this card or the card that they draw for turn, I think we're done. What are you doing? Bolt for Rubbins? Yikes. Okay, that's really good to know about. Opponent kind of had the perfects there for what was going on with my hand. Not going to be changing anything about the deck list here. Hopefully going to keep a slightly more stable hand this time. Again, I do not regret the mulligan decision. I knew going into that hand that we were going to be weak to a wasteland. But with like Swords of Plowshares, Thalia, a White Source, a couple of wastelands, we had a lot of tools for the matchup. It just didn't work out in our favor. Opponent's taking a little bit of time here with sideboarding, so they might be doing something like removing some dazes. Sorry, I don't have anything to talk about here. And someone just sent me something interesting about a very weird mono green deck. You ever played this card in Legacy, folks? I'm probably going to sometime soon. I would like to play first. Hand has the same problem as the last hand, where a wasteland is devastating to me. But I have multiple stone forges and a piece of removal, so I can't throw this hand back. Just basic planes as the draw. That's interesting. I will do that very gladly. So this is nice because if my opponent just has a removal spell, they can't play it this turn on this, which is why I'm opting for Thalia over Stoneforge. But again, a wasteland on us is very bad for me. Even worse once I have my Thalia in play. My opponent has taken almost twice as much clock as I have. I wonder if they're doing something else. Because I don't think it's a particularly difficult decision whether or not to counter a Thalia when your opponent is on the play and you're playing Delver. So it's usually correct to just answer this. She's pretty good. I mean, there's circumstances where it's not true, but generally speaking, you don't want this in play if you're the Delver player. So there's a real conversation to be had about whether or not you play the Mother of Runes around the days or whether you play the Stoneforge Mystic, because the pause on my opponent's turn could have been, do I want to bolt this and be able to daze the next 2-drop that they play their next turn if they miss a land drop? But I'm not going to go that deep into leveling, because my opponent's been playing slowly the whole time. Again, Wasteland still just absolutely amazing against me. Please, opponent, I'm hungry. I want to go get Mexican food. But I can't go and get Mexican food until you die. Or you Wasteland me. Either one of those. Okay, what was so hard about that? No offense meant, opponent, but, like, that seems pretty straightforward. Yep. That sucks. Now her mom is offline too, and they played the spell that doesn't necessarily play into our Walking Ballista. Like, if that was a young Pyromancer and we got to Ballista that, good news for Phil fans. So I'm going to play the Mom this turn, because playing it this turn plays it around a daze. And because if one of these, Mom or Stoneforge, is going to live, I actually want it to be the Stoneforge so that I can dump this Batterskull into play. Because the Batterskull is going to stop this thing from attacking, potentially. Nice. I wonder if my opponent has like a Brazen Borrower in hand or something. So they didn't play any cantrips on their main phase. They didn't just Lightning Bolt on my end step. I dislike that. I hope that doesn't mean they have like an abrade for the batter skull. Okay. I mean, if that card was going to be used in any way, I'm glad it is just a way that costs my opponent, like, their attack as well. So that's fine. It's not great for me, but it's fine. Let's just keep pulling lands off the top. That counts. That counts. Pierce. Get him. So now we just hope our opponent doesn't have any cantrips, so they don't continue to get value out of this card. Because they're just sitting on, like, some dazes or something like that. I can deal with just taking one a turn. It's when they continue to get value off of this card that I think the game is going to slip away from me. Do I have time to wait and play this card around days? Or this card around days? In 2 turns, I can just play this off of the vial. I'm going to go ahead and play this Sword of Fire and Ice. And if this gets countered by days, I don't really care. It does not. Does that mean a braid? What does that mean? Slash, if the opponent had a braid, would they have just abraded the vial? Petty theft, bounce the vial. Sure. Kind of think that's a mistake for my opponent. Like, if that card has been sitting in their hand for at least 1 turn, shouldn't they just have played that out and just used it as a clock instead of trying to grind value out of it? Because they don't have cantrips right now. So, for example, me top decking a mom and getting that mom equipped with the sword is probably a disaster. This is potentially similarly bad for them. I think we're just going to cast this for x equals 1, play it around a days, and then try to equip it. Paper snag, I guess. Yeah, that's fine. I'd be kind of upset if I lose this one after my opponent played that slowly. Not gonna lie. Like, you should not be going this late into the round if you are playing Delver against D&T. Like, I should not be up literally 15 minutes. This is gonna sting. But unless my opponent has another bolt, I actually think I'm okay. Another creature would not be great either. I can play Walking Ballista for X equals 2, kill Delver, kill Borrow Brazen, or go to 3. And then hope opponent doesn't preordain into a bolt. I believe that is the line. Otherwise, the line is play Walking Ballista for 1, equip it. That's getting too risky. That banks on the Delver not flipping. So at any point this game now, I'm dead to a bolt. My opponent gets 1, 2, 3, potentially 4, assuming they bottom. Looks at cards. One top. If it's a bolt, I'm dead. No, it's Bedlam Reveler. Hold on, did they top a Bedlam Reveler that they can't cast? If yes, that's super cool for me. I also have to keep in mind that could be a bluff. My opponent may just have a Force of Will. I don't think I am beating a Force of Will. If that is my opponent's 1 card. I need to think about this for a little while. So if my opponent has Force of Will, how do I beat this Vapor Snag that's in the graveyard? / can I beat this Vapor Snag that's in the graveyard? Yes. But to beat that Vapor Snag that's in the graveyard, I need to play Stoneforge and equip it. So I can't play around Force of Will. That's the line. Opponent, you have 30 seconds. Are we really winning against Delver by timeout? We are really. winning against Delver by timeout. All right, what an exciting episode of Daily D&T. I do think this is the point where we do turn the corner, though. Especially if I draw a land. But that's not really what we're looking to do with this series. We're really looking to showcase things a little better than that. But I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll take that W.